Hi, I'm Albert, and I'm the inventor and founder of the Agentic-based workflow engine that takes your business requirements from project charter to development-ready work items in minutes and not months. And today, I want to talk a little bit about return on investment for our tool and agentic-based work breakdown tools in general, but more specifically, an actual case study for using the PMPA tool. That's the tool that I've invented and is available on the market today, by looking at a specific case study for a SAS-based company that does marketing and sales solutions in the hospitality industry. So the case study, which I'm going to bring up here on the screen in just a moment, fairly mid-sized to small company, and they've got lots of great clients out there, and they're very interested in optimizing their business operations and their software development operations. And so using the PMPA tool, we're going to take a look about how they were able to optimize their delivery solution. So let's get straight to the return on investment. So using the PMPA tool, they were able to gain a return of 691%. So what does that mean exactly? Well, as the slide here shows, let's bring it up right now, we calculate that 691% based directly off of a labor savings cost. And what we don't really count on is, and you'll have to take a time to think about this yourself, is a time and opportunity cost. So the labor savings cost is based on a blended hourly rate that we can share with you here. And this is based off a lot of offshore labor cost, multiplied by that time that was saved, or we like to call it accelerated, and then looking at the actual cost of execution using this tool, and you get an internal rate of return of 691%. So how do we break that down? Well, the tool here, as I stated in my intro, takes your project charter, takes your high-level business requirements, and allows you to break that high-level business requirement down into more granular, decomposed business requirements like epic features and user stories, and then ultimately into subtasks. But it also allows you to create test plans and test cases and some other business requirements and operational requirements and items that you need for your software development. And we just put the sort of the big items here. And for this case study, we see that the project team was accelerated 47 hours. So we use that term a little liberally here, because how do you measure empty space, the time that wasn't taken? Well, we look back at other software projects that were completed, executed by this team, and we say, well, for the epic features that were created in the past, what was the general amount of time that was taken by the product owner and the project team to create these, have discussions, grooming, planning sessions, argue over, refine, and we make a generalization about that time that would have been spent. Same thing with the user stories, technical subtasks. So what would the time of the engineers, the business systems analyst or business analyst, depending on your organization, what's the time they would have spent working, creating, decomposing, and discussing these items? Test plans and test cases the same. How much time would your QA engineers, QA analysts have spent creating these items? And so we make a guesstimation at that for this case study, and we put an acceleration number behind it. And so for this case study in particular, it was a small deliverable. But using the PMPA tool, we assert that 47 hours were accelerated at the cost of using our tool, and then multiplying the labor hours by the blended rate, and then dividing by the cost of using our tool, gives us a 691% rate of return. So that's the bottom line cash return. But let's talk about some of the other bigger picture items of savings and return on investment here. So the first one is the number of weeks saved on this project. So if we look at the original planned timeline for this was before we decided to do the case study. This project had a 24-week baseline estimates before AI, this agentic tool, was onboarded to this project team. Now, those baselines were, pretty standard, pretty in line, using some parametric estimation with other similar type projects, same project teams. So confidence level was pretty high. We're not, playing any silly games here. Using the PMPA tool, the decision was actually made pretty last minute. So not random in any case, but it was made pretty last minute and arbitrary to use this project as a case study sample. And as a result, the final delivery time was 16 weeks. So there was an 8-week savings of time. Now you could say, well, maybe there were some other considerations that allowed you to save this time. So we did a survey throughout the project lifecycle, and what we found was where did we save the time is basically the question. So we saved the time upfront. So the requirements gathering, decomposition, requirements negotiation, that probably would have been about 2 months worth of time upfront. Well, we were able to compress that basically into just a couple of weeks. And you want to think about not just the duration of time that was saved, but really think about all the involved labor hours, the people who are involved, not just the product owners, product managers, but the rest of the team members that get involved in decomposition. So if they're not involved in writing and negotiating and back and forth about acceptance criteria, they're out doing other more valuable things. So that is a huge, huge savings of time and opportunity costs. The next area of huge savings was throughout the periodic cycling. This was an agile-based team. Throughout the cycling of the delivery process. So a sprint-based delivery cycle, every sprint you would normally have a planning, decomposition, discussion session where the project team delivers the requirements at or near the beginning of the sprint cycle. There's always nice discussions, of course, if all of you guys have been on sprint cycles before. Questions about the requirements, missing acceptance criteria, so on and so forth. Well, the PMPA tool is very, very good about providing detailed requirements, given good requirements at the beginning of the project charter. So that time was reduced because in the decompositions and planning and review sessions at the beginning of the sprint, there was very little discussion. Very detailed acceptance criteria is provided by the agentic workflows, guidance to the developer, guidance to the testers provided by the workflows, very detailed descriptions. So very, very little discussion, argument, consternation is discussed at encountered at every sprint cycle. So you're saving a lot of labor time, you're saving a lot of recycle time every sprint. So there's compression there of the schedule every single sprint cycle. Now, of course, that all leads to less rework. So if you get your requirements right up front, there's less ambiguity, well, then you save throughout the project cycle. So all of that combined leads to a compression of your total project delivery. So instead of 24 weeks, based on knowing you're going to have some rework, some regression, some problems, a long requirements process, now you deliver at 16 weeks. Now, the end of this is your testing. Your testing team can write all of the test plans, test requirements up front. Now, the majority of that using the tool is positive test cases. So you get all the easy stuff out of the way on the very first day of the project because you have all the requirements written. The requirements are written with clarity. So you spend the next 8-10 weeks of the project, the test team can write all of the edge conditions, all the negative test cases, all the non-functional test cases. So as you get towards the end of the project deliverable, not only do you have a test suite of all of the happy paths and end-to-end user flows, you also have now been able to invest the time in all the negative and edge case and non-functional test flows that otherwise you would have never gotten to. So your confidence rate in your quality goes way up because you've now how the agentic workflows of the PMPA tool have taken care of all the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff for you at the very beginning of the project. You've been able to validate that, implement it at the very upfront, and now you've spent all of the project time working on the very difficult things and those things that you probably would have ignored or didn't have the time or the money to address. So this is a real world return on investment case study that I wanted to share with you. And this is a result of using the Project Management Process Accelerator, the PMPA tool, at a real world SaaS company. So I hope this really gets you excited about using agentic workflows, about using the PMPA tool, and get you excited and maybe interested in reaching out and contacting us to use our tool in particular, but really gets you interested and exciting about using AI in your product management and project management processes, because we believe that, and I believe in particular, getting through all of this faster is only going to make the world a better place, get our software out the door faster, more features, and is just going to lead to a better society for all of us. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I wish you a fantastic day. Thank you.